Yes, good morning, students. Today we talk about female reproductive system. In human, the female reproductive system, it is consisted of pair of ovaries, also pair of oviducts. Then you have uterus. Then this is the uterus, this entire structure. Then vagina, this extended tube. Also external genitalia and pair of mammary glands. These are the structures included in female reproductive system. Pair of ovaries, pair of oviducts, uterus, the terminal region of uterus which is called as cervix, which is a very vital important part. It actually allows the communication between the uterus and vagina. So that is a cervix region, to be followed by vagina and later external genitalia and pair of mammary glands. Let's talk about these components of a female reproductive system. Basically, they support ovulation. They carry on, particularly the ovaries carry on with oogenesis, the female gamete formation, release of that is called as ovulation, fertilization of male and female gamete, pregnancy, birth, and child care. Even after the birth, the matter doesn't get over. The child care, which is an important component, in the life cycle of mammals, they show parental care. For that, they have been provided with the mammary glands to secrete milk and nourish the young ones, which makes them to be called as mammals. So these are the things in which these components will support. We are going to talk about each one in detail, starting with the first in that sequence, the primary sex organs of a female, and they are pair of ovaries. So let's talk about the ovaries. Ovaries are primary sex organs of female. They have two functions. Number one, gametogenesis. They produce ova or ovum, individual one. So this is called as oogenesis. That's the first function of ovary. Second, they also secrete hormones, female sex hormones, the ovarian steroidal hormones, such as estrogen and progesterone. Estrogens and progesterone. These two are to be secreted from ovaries. As you can see here that ovaries are attached. They are rather on one on each side of this uterus, inside the lower part of the abdomen, one on each side of the uterus. That's the position of these ovaries. And there they are connected to pelvic wall and uterus by the ligaments. Here you can see those ligaments. You can see those ligaments by which these are those ligaments by which the ovary shall remain attached to uterus as well as pelvic wall. लोअर एब्डोमिनल रीजन में बैक साइड का जो वॉल होता है, that is the lower region, pelvic wall. So to that, the ovary shall remain attached, each one. and that attachment is facilitated by the ligaments. So ligaments hold the ovary in its position. Ligaments hold each ovary in its position. The length of ovary is between 2 to 4 centimeter. 2 to 4 centimeter is the length of ovary. Internally, if we see, inside the ovary, actually there is a thin epithelium called germinal epithelium. It makes the outermost layer of the ovary. यहाँ पे होगा. So the outermost layer of the ovary is germinal epithelium. This is the one which will produce ova. It encloses the inner stuff, what is called as ovarian stroma. This stroma portion, excluding this germinal epithelium, the remaining stuff inside, that is the stroma portion. This stroma is further divided into two parts, such as this red color part is a medulla. This is the medulla. And these outer portion, that is called as cortex. And then you have outermost germinal epithelium. Actually, if you see carefully, so between the germinal epithelium and the stroma part, which begins as a cortex, there is one more layer, and that layer is called as, that is called tunica albuginea. Now, if outermost is germinal epithelium, inner to that is tunica albuginea, and then starts the stroma, in which outer part of the stroma is indicated here as a green colored one, that is cortex. Inner core region is termed as medulla part of the ovary. As you can see that in a medulla part, mainly the blood vessels, nerves, those which are supplying the stuffs in ovary. Cortex, as you can see, been dominated by the ovarian follicles at a various stages of development. Then the outer cover is tunica albuginea, and the outermost cover is the germinal epithelium. This thing very important, that the germinal epithelium is not inside, but it is outside the tunica albuginea. Is this clear to all? If you have any question, you can post. Okay, no one is asking question. So let me ask you, which are the primary sex organs in female reproductive system? Well, ovaries act as gonad as well as endocrine gland. So when they act as gonad, what is their function? When they act as gonad, reproductive organ, they will perform oogenesis. When they act as endocrine gland, they produce what? Which hormones? Progesterone, and estrogens. Inside the body cavity, in which part they are located? Lower abdominal region. And they are very close on lateral sides of which structure? They are placed on lateral sides of what? Uterus. And shall remain attached to the uterus and the wall, backside wall in the abdominal cavity. By which structures? Ligament. What's the length of ovary on an average? Average length of ovary shall be how much? 2 to 4 centimeter. The outermost cover of the ovary is called as what? Germinal epithelium. Exactly. An inner ovarian stroma is further divisible into which two? The peripheral region called as cortex, and the central region is called as medulla. Let's talk about the other parts of the reproductive system in a female. First one, the accessory ducts. Oviduct, uterus, and vagina are accessory ducts. If you remember, in a male individual, we had a epididymis and vasa, differentia, and the ejaculatory duct and urethra kind of accessory ducts were there. Here, the accessory ducts included are oviducts, uterus, and vagina. Let's talk about them, starting with the first one, oviducts. Oviducts are also identified as uterine tubes. These are the oviducts from here to here, this much. So oviducts are identified as uterine tubes or fallopian tubes. They shall be having a length of on an average from here to here. This length is 10 to 12 centimeter. 10 to 12 centimeter. It extends from periphery of ovary to the uterus. As you can see, this is the ovary towards its periphery from here till uterus. It is extended, each one. It has got three parts. Number one, this is the isthmus, a very narrow region that continues with the uterus. Uterus cavity continues into the oviduct cavity in this part called as isthmus. This is the isthmus portion. Then comes the next region called ampulla. This is comparatively a wider part. This is comparatively a wider part over there. And it is actually the site of fertilization, somewhere at this point. The fertilization is likely to take place in this region, ampullary region. And the last is this, what you call as infundibulum region. If you see the infundibulum region, it looks like a funnel. Have a look. This is the funnel shaped structure, the infundibulum. This is very, this structure is very close to the ovary. And if you see its edges, they possess finger-like projections which are called as fimbrae. They are termed as fimbrae. These fimbrae will help in ovum collection after the ovulation. After the lecture, I will be sending one video to you in the group. Please go through that video. It will have the information regarding the structure of female reproductive system, particularly this ovary part and this oviduct part. So there you will see how the ovum is released from an ovary and how is this fimbriae helpful in collecting that ovum and bring it inside the infundibulum. So that is what you can see over there. Well, this was the profile of fallopian tubes. Do you understand? Any question? Any question on this part? Well, no one is raising any questions, so we can revise it straight away. We are talking about accessory ducts in a female reproductive system. First amongst them, oviducts. Which are the other two names of the oviducts? Yes, fallopian tubes, correct. And uterine tubes is another name. How much is their length? 10 to 12 centimeter, that's correct. The part of the oviduct closest to the uterus, that narrow region is known as which one? Isthmus. Isthmus. A wider part next to it, next to isthmus, that is termed as ampulla. Actually, it's a site of fertilization, the ampulla, particularly closer to the isthmus ampulla junction. That part of ampulla is the site of fertilization. And the terminal region of oviduct close to the ovary is termed as infundibulum. What's the shape of infundibulum? Yeah, and what's the speciality of its edges towards the ovary? Its edges are having what? They have a fimbriae. What are these fimbriae? The finger-like projections. What is their significance? Yes, they help in ovum collection. That's the correct answer. Let's go for the next. The next component in the female reproductive system and also a part of accessory duct setup, that is uterus, womb of mother. This is uterus. Just a minute. This is inverted pear-shaped structure. It is also attached to the pelvic wall and again with the help of ligaments. See, ये जो background में wall होगी, वहां से attachment होता है. Ovaries, oviduct and uterus का. So they are attached to the inner surface of our dorsal body wall with the help of ligaments. This is the uterus, this much. Then this portion of it is termed as cervix. It's actually the mouth of the uterus that is opening into the vagina. And here comes the last structure, that is the vagina. Now this entire passage that includes number 1, uterus, number 2, cervix, and number 3, vagina, till it opens to outside as the vaginal opening. 3 are constituting what is called as okay, now fine. 3 are very important structures in which particularly this is the site wherein fetal development occurs. Initially, it is called embryo, and in the later part of the pregnancy, after a few weeks, it will be termed as fetus. So for 9 months, uterus becomes the site for development of baby. Entire gestation or pregnancy period is the one in which the development will take place inside the uterus. Now that is the significance of uterus. But after 9 months, baby is to be given a birth. That is called as parturition or delivery. In delivery, first of all, baby will be pushed out from this canal, which is called as cervical canal, and this canal, which is called as vaginal canal. The cavity of vagina and the cavity of cervix. These are the 2 important cavities through which baby needs to pass from here to here. That is termed as birth canal. That is identified as which one? Birth canal. What is a birth canal? This cervical canal, the passage in the cervix, and this vaginal canal. For Hitarth, I mentioned fertilization takes place in the oviduct ampullary region. So I was talking about somebody asked question. What is that question now? Few inches. So this cervical canal and this vaginal canal together is known as birth canal, through which the fetus will come down and will be delivered to outside. So again, I will go through this one. Uterus is the site for gestation. Uterus is the site for gestation. आप इमेजिन करो यहाँ से स्पर्म्स आ रहे हैं, यहाँ से ओवम आ रहा है, फिर स्पर्म्स यहाँ पे जाके फर्टिलाइजेशन करेंगे, यहाँ पे फर्टिलाइजेशन हो रहा है, फिर यहाँ से एम्ब्रियो यहाँ पे आके सेटल होता है, 9 months का डेवलपमेंट होता है, and then through the cervical canal and vaginal canal, the baby is given a birth. If you see the uterus structure, its wall is a very significant component in our this study. Reason is it is the one which will support the pregnancy, the gestation. The baby shall remain attached with this wall. So very important structure. Another one, every 28 days, on every 28 days, a female completes a cycle which is called as menstrual cycle. If there is no pregnancy, then the thickened wall of the uterus is been sludged off, which is called as menstruation. So every 28 days, the cycle gets repeated. If pregnancy is there, there will be no such cycle during that period. Otherwise, this cycle will continue in a female right from puberty, age of 12 plus or minus 1 year, till the menopause, that is age of 45 plus or minus few years. So in both this case is gestation and otherwise regularly occurring menstrual cycle, the uterine wall plays a significant role. What is that role? Let us understand. In this wall, there are three layers. Uterine wall has got three layers. आपको imagine करना पड़ेगा कि यहाँ पे three layers होते हैं. In this wall, there is a thin like this, a thin layer, outer thin membrane covering the uterus wall, that is called as perimetrium. That is termed as perimetrium. Then this inner or rather middle layer, that is called as myometrium. Now myometrium is made up of smooth muscles, non-striated plain muscles or smooth muscles are the ones which are present over there. Very strong contraction of these muscles help in delivery or parturition. As I mentioned that after 9 months of gestation, baby will be released from the uterus to the cervical canal and further in the vaginal canal and be released outside the body of mother. For that, baby needs to be pushed over here. That push comes from this middle layer that is termed as myometrium, and it is mainly composed of smooth muscles. Then this is the innermost layer of the uterus. This is termed as endometrium. If outer one was perimetrium, middle one was myometrium, inner one is endometrium. सबसे important layer. It is the innermost layer. It is highly glandular. It has got lots of mucus glands and lots of blood vessels and connective tissue. It undergoes cyclic changes during menstrual cycle. As I mentioned that every 28 days in a female, a cycle is going on inside the body. The one in which after every 28 days, the endometrial part of this uterine wall is sludged off, discarded. That process is called menstruation. It lasts for 3 to 5 days over there. And again, this endometrium shall be rebuilded in anticipation of possible implantation. But again, in that given month, if there is no implantation, then again, at the end of 28 days cycle, the endometrial wall portion will be sludged off. So repeatedly occurring cycle, that's a menstrual cycle in which endometrium is being discarded. Well, that is the profile of this uterus, second one. Have you understood? Let's go through it. The inverted pear-shaped structure in the female reproductive system, the uterus. It is supported by what? Attached with the pelvic wall and supported by what? Again, ligaments. Uterus is the site for dash. Implantation and fetal development, the entire gestation period. Uterus terminates into vagina, by which structure its mouth, which is called as cervix. Which two canals together constitute birth canal, the passage for the baby to come out at the time of delivery? Cervical canal and vaginal canal. In the wall of uterus, there are three layers. outermost thin membrane is called as perimetrium. Correct. The middle layer is known as myometrium. Myometrium is having presence of what? Smooth muscles. And it shall undergo contractions during the delivery. Innermost layer is called as what? Endometrium. Structural speciality, it is consisting of mainly what? Glands, lots of mucus glands. And it is discarded at the time of menstruation. Let's talk about the female external genitalia. In a female reproductive system, the external genitalia, that is our next topic. Before I go for it, let's have a look at the side view of female reproductive system. What you saw was the front view, and this is the side view. This is that uterus, here is that cervix, here is that vagina. This is, by the way, the urinary bladder, ureter. Then this portion is, this particular part is termed female external genitalia. Let's talk about the structures which are part of this setup of female external genitalia. We'll start with the first in that sequence. Hold on. Okay, here is the one. First is mons pubis. Mons pubis. It's a cushion-like fatty tissue covered, cushion-like fatty tissue that is covered with the skin and pubic hair. In this region, here there are openings, for example, this is the vaginal opening, and this is the urethral opening. So this region is termed as mons pubis. In a female body, in the lowermost region of the abdomen, above this genitals, above this openings of these genitals, there is a cushion-like fatty tissue region which is covered with this skin, and there are pubic hair in this region. This is termed as mons pubis. Then comes labia majora and labia minora. Basically, these are the folds which cover these two openings, urethral opening and vaginal opening. These are the folds. Labia is basically for the lips, so their shape is like the lips. Majora is for larger and minora is for smaller. So there are two sets of lips, or you can say the two sets of labia. The outer one, which are fleshy folds of tissue, which extend from here to here in this region. This is the anal aperture. So in between this region, they are extended. These are labia majora. the fleshy folds of tissue which extend down from the mons pubis. देखो यहाँ तक mons pubis मैंने आपको दिखाया था यहाँ से. So where it ends, there starts the labia majora and extend down over there. They surround these openings, mainly the vaginal and urethral openings over there. Inside them, between this labia majora, on inner side to them, there are labia minora. In this region with its counterpart. These are the paired folds of tissue which lie under the labia majora. So reverse, if you think, these are the two openings close to each other. One is the vaginal opening and one is the urethral opening. They are covered with the thin folds which are called labia minora, and they are further covered by the large folds called labia majora, and they are comparatively more fleshy in nature. At the okay, fine, up to here I think it should be clear. In the female reproductive system, in the lower part of the abdomen, these are the portions that you need to understand. This is the urethral opening, this is the vaginal opening, this is the anal opening, this is the mons pubis, the cushion-like fatty tissue region, which is covered with the skin and pelvic hair. These two openings are covered by immediately by this labia minora, the thin folds of tissue which are under the labia majora, which are thick fleshy folds of tissue on outer side to this region. Okay, fine. So in a female reproductive system, in external genitalia, the cushion-like fatty tissue which is in the lower abdominal region, that is termed as what? Mons pubis. It is covered with the skin and hair. Which is this opening? Vaginal opening. And which is this other opening? Urethral opening. What you call the pair of thin folds which cover up these two openings as immediate structures to them. Labia minora. And outer to them are what? Labia majora. Paired folds of fleshy folds of tissue extended down from the mons pubis till this point, behind which there is an anus or anal aperture. Next to this, clitoris. If you see carefully in this region, exactly at the upper junction of the two labia minora above the urethral aperture, You can imagine that this is the urethral aperture, this is the vaginal opening, and this inner folds, one of them labia minora, one, and at its upper end, this is the one. There is a tiny finger-like structure, small elevation over there, lying at the upper junction of labia. Two labia minora meet each other in this region, that upper end of this region, that is termed as clitoris. Basically, clitoris doesn't participate much in the sexual reproduction, in this sense that neither it produces something, neither hormone nor gametes, nor it's a passage for gamete transfer or baby transfer. It is just associated with the female reproductive system. That's the one thing. Two, it has some erectile tissue, very much like a penile tissue, penile erectile tissue, the erectile tissue of the penis. Equivalent to that, there is a small, obviously penile size is much larger than this small elevation, but the common feature for both, that both possess erectile tissue. So in a sexual excitement matter, this may be helpful. Otherwise, no direct role in the reproduction aspect, at least. Then another structure that one needs to understand, and that is hymen. That is hymen. It is actually a membrane, a delicate membrane, which partially covers the opening of vagina. Now let's assume that this is the vaginal opening. So in this region, a fold of tissue in this region. If this is the vaginal opening. In this, there will be a fold of membrane in this region. Like this. This membrane, which is partially covering the opening of vagina, this is gonna be partially covering the opening of vagina, this kind of membrane in this region. It is called as hymen. This delicate membrane covering the vaginal opening partially, it is called hymen. It can get torn during the first coitus. The coitus, the one in which the male will insert erectile or erect penis into the vagina through this vaginal opening. So at that first coitus time, this may get ruptured, number one. Another possibility is that even after the first coitus, it may persist, it may not be damaged. So both possibilities may be there. Either at the first coitus it may be ruptured, or else it may not be ruptured even. But the second thing is that it can be ruptured even by some other ways. For example, sudden fall or jolt. If a female is experiencing sudden fall or a jolt, it can be responsible for its rupturing. Certain sports activity, particularly cycling and other such sports activity, in which because of excessive pressure it might be ruptured. It's a possibility. Even while inserting the vaginal tampon is about a cotton pad which female at times insert in order to stop the heavy menstrual loss. So if anything is penetrated inside the vaginal passage, any hard structure, any object, finger, or even erectile penis, it may be ruptured because of all this, physical actions over there. So that is called as hymen. In a female reproductive system, a tiny finger-like structure lying at the upper junction of the two labia, what you call it as clitoris. What's a speciality of the clitoris with respect to the tissue present in it? Yeah, equivalent to the erectile tissue of penis. Obviously, size is too small. And it's for sexual excitement, nothing else than that. A delicate membrane partially covering the vaginal opening is termed as hymen. Okay. And because of different types of physical actions, it can be ruptured. Well, a break, and then we will resume our work. So a break for 5 minutes at least. Ma'am, hold on with the one more structure. One more structure associated with the female reproductive system, and that is mammary glands. As I mentioned that the mammals are identified by this characteristic feature. All of you switch off your camera, go off the screen. So our next topic is mammary glands. Mammary glands are modified sweat glands. Inside the body, the sweat glands in the skin, which are responsible for sweating, in the chest region in a female, they get transformed into mammary glands. This is the characteristic of the mammalian females. See, our group is called mammals because of this feature, which is unique and not seen in other groups. The one in which a female parent shall secrete milk through these glands and will nourish the young one, which is a characteristic feature of these mammals. It's one of the parental care mechanism. In a female, in the breast region, these are the paired structure, the mammary glands. Basically, if you see the structure of breast, two things are there. One is the glandular tissue, and then there are fats. A glandular tissue, you can see that it is in this region. For example, this is the region where glandular tissue is present. And here is the region where you can see it is the fats which are present. Together they constitute the breast in a female. If you see the glandular region, so the glandular tissue of the breast includes 15 to 20 lobes in each breast. This is one. This is another one. This may be the third one. This may be the fourth one, fifth one. like that, or you cannot see all from 2D diagram, but otherwise there are 15 to 20 such lobes, each one termed as memory lobe. Each one is termed as memory lobe. So there are memory lobes over here. Why it is not getting enlarged? Second, inside each memory lobe, if you see, there are small little chamber-like structures. These are alveoli. This is one memory lobe. Inside that, as you can see, there are chambers which are called as alveoli. These are termed as alveoli. Each alveolus is a cluster of cells. इसका अगर section लिया जाए तो आपको पता चलेगा. Like this. Each one is alveolus surrounded by these cells, glandular cells, and inside this they secrete milk. यहाँ पे वो milk secrete करते हैं, which is going out through these smaller ducts. So each alveolus is a cluster of cells which secretes milk and stores it in this lumen of each alveolus. The mammary tubule, this one, if this is an alveolus, these kind of small duct or tubules, the one in which alveoli open, are called mammary tubule. This is called as mammary tubule. These mammary tubules join with each other and they form mammary duct. They form mammary duct. I explained to you in a diagrammatic manner. Let's assume that this is just one mammary lobe. So within this, there will be actually, this may be its mammary duct, and in this opens several alveoli. Each one is an alveolus. These ducts are called mammary tubules. And all these mammary tubules of one mammary lobe, they join to form mammary duct. So if there are 15 to 20 mammary lobes present, if there are 15 to 20 mammary lobes present, how many mammary ducts must be present? Equal number, 15 to 20. You agree or not? Isn't it? यही चीज को हम ऐसे डॉटेड फॉर्म में अगर दिखा दे, this is the same thing that a mammary lobe. The whole thing is a mammary lobe with several alveoli. Each alveolus has its mammary tubule. All these mammary tubules of alveoli in a same mammary lobe, they join to form mammary duct. These mammary duct, at a certain distance, it possesses enlarged structure, which is called as a mammary ampulla. This is called as, let me show you. This one is termed as mammary ampulla. The enlarged structure of the mammary duct is called as mammary ampulla. Let me show you in the diagram also. देखो, the mammary duct, actually several mammary ducts join from the 2 or 3 lobes. जैसे ये मेमोरी डक्ट है एक लोब की, ये मेमोरी डक्ट है दूसरे लोब की, and after certain distance they are forming what is called as mammary ampulla. And these several mammary ampullae join with each other and make a common duct, which is called as lactiferous duct. That is termed as lactiferous duct. And this lactiferous duct will open at the tip of the breast, which is called nipple. The dark region around the nipple, that is called as areola. It's the dark pigmented region around the nipple that is called as areola. So there in this nipple tip, the lactiferous duct will open. It is this duct through which milk will be ejected out. That is about the structure of the breast. You see there is one lactiferous duct which is formed by several ampullae. Each ampulla is formed by this is the lactiferous duct. Number 2 is mammary ampullae. Number 3 is mammary ducts. Number 4 are mammary lobes. Did you get the sense of what has been taught to you? The structure of breast, the glandular tissue. Reverse अगर study करते हो तो the first, that is lactiferous duct, opens to the tip of the nipple for milk ejection. It is formed by joining of several mammary ampullae. These several mammary ampullae, each one is formed by joining of several mammary ducts. Each mammary duct is coming from the mammary lobe. And in each lobe, there will be several cells, which several alveoli rather. Each one has got several alveoli. Each lobe has got several alveoli. and each alveolus has its mammary tubule. So in one lobe, several alveoli, several mammary tubules open into mammary duct of each lobe, and these mammary ducts of nearby lobes join to form mammary ampulla, and these mammary ampulla join to form lactiferous, which opens to outside for milk ejection, and at the tip of the nipple it will open. Have you understood? Fine. Mammary glands are modified dash. Mammary glands are modified dash. Sweat glands. In the structure of breast, two things are seen. Which two things are seen? Fats and glandular tissue. Fats and glandular tissue. The glandular tissue is represented by which structures and how many of them? 15 to 20 mammary lobes. In each lobe, there is a cluster of cells. These clusters of cells are called what? Alveoli. They secrete the milk and store in their lumen. What you call the duct of each alveolus? Mammary tubule. And mammary tubules of different alveoli in a one lobe, they join and open into what? Mammary duct. So each lobe has its mammary duct. And several mammary ducts of nearby alveoli join to form ampulla. And all these mammary ampullae converge into a common duct that is called as lactiferous duct for milk ejection to outside. It opens into the tip of nipple. And what you call the dark pigmented region around the nipple as areola. That's it about the female reproductive system. Madam, stop the recording.